Right, hello everyone. We hope you had a great week. How are you going, mate?
Doing good, how are you?
Good, good. So we're back in action today. Huh? זה עובד מפה. Okay, so I hope you guys can hear me. And we hope technicality is all good. All right, great. So we're back on the air. Hope you guys had a good week. Where were we? And today we're going to carry on with our lessons as usual. Now today we've got lesson 9, which is inner work in Kabbalah. But let's just do a little recap, a few minutes on what we talked about last week, so we can kind of bridge last lesson with this one. Now, last lesson we talked about free will, and we mentioned before that free will can only happen if a person has two opposite traits, two opposites, so that he can reconcile them. And this is why we have always two opposite things in reality, in order for us to grasp everything about a phenomena. For example, day and night, sweet, bitter, ugly, beautiful, and chili sauce and sweet sauce. Okay, so everything has two opposites, and according to those two opposites, we can have a variety of impressions, and we can have a variety of understandings. We can actually reconcile everything to its minute detail because of those two opposite situations. And in order for us to have freedom of choice, we also need two opposites in reality. And what we mentioned those were last time was that we, at an animate level, are a desire to receive pleasure. Okay, Shmuel, Tzur, Bevakasha. Okay, so we're a desire to receive pleasure. This is by default. This is our nature. This is our animate nature. Okay, so this is the donkey in us. All right, that's our animate nature. Nothing we can do about it. It's just how it is. Now, on top of that, though, if we're a desire to receive pleasure, that's our software, and that's how we're always calculating, and that's how we're always doing things in life. Minimum effort, maximum gain. If that's how we work instinctively, just like any animal does, then there's nothing to talk about. This person doesn't have any free choice. Free choice is not what I'm able to choose from a menu what to eat. That's not free choice, okay? Because I'm always going to go according to what I want. If I'm always going for what I really want, what kind of free choice is that? There is no free choice. So in order for us to have a free choice, we also need to have inside of us an inclination. That's called a dot in the heart, or a spark in the heart. Dot in the heart. Now the dot in the heart is very important because this is that inclination inside of us, that push, that little pinch that brings us to the question about the meaning of life. Why are we living? What is the meaning of my life? Okay, meaning of life. Without this question, there's nothing really to talk about with a person. Without this question, the person just lives in this animate nature, and this is how he or she will end up dead. All right, so there's nothing we can do about it. Just like a chicken also walks on two legs, right? Chickens and roosters, they walk on two legs. What happens is we as people, if you're not vegan or a vegetarian, we barbecue them and we eat them, right? So, and then they die. So what happens to us in life? Well, life eats us up as well, and then we die as well. Well, where do we go? Well, we don't go anywhere, right? So just like the chicken's bones melt away, our bones and flesh also melt away in the ground. So in order for us to have an existence beyond this corporeal level, beyond this animal that exists here, we need to build something spiritual. We need to build something on top of that. And that is the dot in the heart. So for me now, if I have those two situations, then I have a choice. I can then ask myself, well, what do I want? Do I want to get spiritual? Or are we going to do the Olivia Newton-John and get physical? All right, so that's the decision, okay? All right, if you grew up in the 80s, you'd know what I was talking about. Okay, so we can either get spiritual or physical. Now we've got something to talk about. And we also discussed in our previous lesson that in order for us to make a decision, just like we have a corporeal environment in this world that attracts us to corporeal pleasures, which are what? Family. Oops, let me just do this a little thinner. So we have, in this physical zone, we have desires for family or companionship, family, sex, food, money, honor, and knowledge. So these are our animate level desires. And all of these desires, the moment we fulfill them, what happens is the pleasure and the desire, they cancel each other out. So we're once again left seeking fulfillment with only these desires. We don't have anything else other than these 6 desires: family, food, sex, money, honor, and knowledge. So this is one environment, which is the corporeal environment of our lives here, environment. And then we have a spiritual environment also, where we have a teacher, we have the sources that we study from, and we have the friends as well. Okay, just like in corporeality, we also have family and friends, don't we? Let's put family and friends. Okay, friends are hard to come by nowadays, but let's just put it in there anyway, in case you're lucky enough to have a few. And so in our spiritual environment, this is our spiritual environment. This is also an environment. And now I can decide on which environment to choose, whether I want a physical environment or a spiritual environment, because according to that choice, I'm going to develop. All right, so that's our free choice, and that's where we were at. And Baal Islam gave a really good explanation as to that when he gave us the example in his Freedom article about how a small seed develops in the soil. So we place a small seed in the soil, and if that soil is fertile, if it has good water, nice sun, a good environment, and a person looking after those plants there, then that plant can grow into something very fruitful. However, if the environment is bad, if I take a seed and plant it in the middle of a desert somewhere, I don't know, in Sudan or Egypt, somewhere in between there, and then what's going to happen is that's not going to really grow, is it? It's not going to happen. Nothing will happen from that because it's sand, so it doesn't have any minerals that the seed needs. There's no water, and it's just not going to happen. So for us to grow in any environment, we need to choose a good environment, and that good environment needs to facilitate our growth. So in any case, if you want to fulfill your physical desires, then you need to choose an environment that's good for fulfilling those desires. If you want to get spiritual, then you need to choose an environment that allows you to be spiritually fulfilled and spiritually developing, and that's where your free choice is. Now, why are Kabbalists saying, well, this free choice equals only in Kabbalah? I mean, this free choice only exists in Kabbalah. Why doesn't it exist in other methods? The reason is very simple, because our desire to receive, right, our desire to receive here, let me just make this black actually. This desire to receive here is for our own benefit. It works egoistically. Egoistic. So in order for me to make a free choice, I need to have something completely opposite to that. And that's spiritual. Let's make that green. And spirituality is pure bestowal. This is why you can't have it with any other method. Why? Because most other methods, including religions as well, want to make you feel good. Okay, not that spirituality is feeling bad. However, spirituality is living above the sensation, whereas physicality, corporeality, is living inside the sensation. So I'm actually living in this sensation of feeling good or bad. I'm doing everything according to what makes me feel good. That's why it's egoistic. This is our egoistic nature here, and I'm doing everything in order to make myself feel good. That's the goal here. However, spirituality in terms of Kabbalah is a whole different ballgame, because everything I'm doing here is above my ego. So this is my desire to receive. That's my desire to receive. But what I'm doing in Kabbalah is I'm making sure everything is above my desire to receive. So no matter how I feel, the only thing I want to do is bestow. So it's disconnected from me. And only there you can have free choice. I hope this is clear, right? Because this needs to be clear. This is why a lot of things are different from religions. Why? Because in religion, what do you have? You want to do a lot of good things so that when you die, you can go to La La Land. Okay? Well, that's what they believe anyway. However, Kabbalists say, well, sorry about that, guys, but there is no La La Land. How can there be La La Land if our body just ends up dead, just like cats and dogs? There can't be. The whole idea of this world, this corporeal world, is to build on top of this corporeal existence the conscious way of living. That consciousness, that high level of consciousness, is the spirituality that we're after, which is defined in Kabbalah as being just like the Creator Himself. Isn't that great? We can attain that while we live here. And that is how free will works. Now, up to here, are we all good?
We have some...
If there's anything not clear about free will, this is your chance to make it happen.
Let's see what we have here. Varga is asking, how do I choose... Oh, sorry. Stephen is asking from the UK, how do I choose spirituality?
How do you choose
When it offers infinite pleasure, is this not just being more farsighted?
Yeah, it does. But here, because we have an egoistic nature, right? When we're first making that decision, it's also egoistic, right? Because we're egoists, right? We can't just flip our character or our nature from egoistic to bestowal, well, just because we want to get spiritual, now I'm bestowing. Now, it's not going to happen. We egoistically want to be spiritual because we've got a dot in the heart inside our desire to receive. That's a really good question. All right? Because where's our dot in the heart? Although I drew them separately, our dot in the heart exists in this big swamp of desires. So on top of, I've got all these egoistic desires, fully 100% egoistic, and this dot in the heart is nearly drowning in it, and it's just screaming a little bit, just enough to get its voice heard, and it's telling me, hey, give us a hand, get us out of the swamp, will ya? Now that scream is also, that pinch about the meaning of life is also egoistic, because it's inside of all my egoistic desires. However, what we're going to do with spiritual study is get this guy out of this swamp and get him out here for a bit of a breather. All right? That's what we want to do. We want to get him up here, give him some fresh air and a new life. And that is, getting up here is actually the process of studying Kabbalah. How's that? Ta-da! Okay, so all of this, all of the phases and the states that we're going through already until we get spiritual is actually egoistic as well. There's nothing we can do about it. However, during that study period, what happens is we go through phases, we go through changes. Okay, we're also going as we go up. Okay, as we go up, as we study more and more and more, what happens is we go through changes, inner changes actually. These inner changes allow me to gradually become above my ego. So now my dot in the heart was right here at the bottom. Okay, it was right here, sunk in here. Now what will happen is it will, let me just draw this in black here. It will come up here and it'll be a bit more, it'll be less egoistic, let's say. It will come up here, it'll again be less egoistic until all my ego fades away and I stick my head out here and attain that first level of spirituality. So if I'm 100% egoist here, then I become like 1% egoist here. And then up here, I'm like neutral, not egoistic at all. And then from there on, I can get into bestowal. I can start to bestow, 20%. Okay? And that's how we gradually develop. So that's a very good question. So until that happens, though, what needs to happen, what we need to actually start to think about is, do I really, really want to get spiritual? Because our free choice actually is to begin to want to get spiritual, although it's egoistic. Instead of wanting to fulfill myself at this level here, what I want to do is egoistically, even though it is egoistic, that's okay, because that's how we're created. We want to get spiritual. All right. That's a very good question. Stephen from the UK, lovely jubbly. All right, what else?
Now, Mike from South Africa is asking, if spirituality makes me feel good, is it not true spirituality?
No, it is true spirituality. Okay, what is the purpose of life? Let's get back to lesson 1, or was it 2? The purpose of life is to be happy, right? It's to be happy. But the purpose of life is to be happy on an ongoing basis. Now, in our world, we're only happy the moment we get fulfilled, and then the fulfillment and the desire, they cancel each other out. So the Creator wants to bring us to a situation where we want to be happy and fulfilled all the time. How can that happen? That can only happen if my nature changes into something else, and I get pleasure from that change. That change is called bestowal. And the Kabbalists are saying, listen, just like when you have kids and you love it when you give it to them, when you give them all these presents, they become really happy. When you take them out, they're very happy. When you spend time with them, they're very happy. So just like our kids become very happy because we're giving to them all the time, and we're happier even more than our kids. Why? Because we love them so much. The Creator is saying, well, the Kabbalists are explaining that if you love people, you can bestow to them, and because you love them and you're constantly bestowing, your happiness can never be quenched. You can be happy forever. So instead of getting pleasure from receiving for ourselves, which we can't get pleasure anyway under the circumstances, what happens is we flip to the other side and we bestow, and we become happy from bestowing, but the way the Creator bestows, not according to our head here, right? The way the Creator bestows. And that is a higher level of consciousness that we're talking about. So we don't want to go out and start bestowing like Good Samaritans, okay? Because Good Samaritans, they go out and bestow, and they normally cause more harm than good. Just like the road to hell is paved with good intentions, isn't it? Right, Anthony? Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So our intention, even though it might be good according to what I think, it will never be good as long as I'm in this nature. So we have to attain the Creator. Now, we only got 40 minutes. I'm going to move on to the next lesson, and the next lesson is inner work. Right, so I am talking a little fast simply because we've got 40 minutes left. Let's see what we can do. If you got this book, Kabbalah for the Student, great. Please open up page 415 and let's rock and roll. 415, what is that article called? The Work Along the Three Lines, 415. Okay, so this is the preface to the book of Zohar. And let's see where we're at. Okay. Where does it say that? Okay, this is the preface to the book of Zohar, but this doesn't have the 3 lines here. Let's see. No. I think they got the wrong book here. Okay, not a problem. Wrong book, sorry about that. Which is not a problem at all. Why? Because it's all in here. All right, so we can go from that. Okay, isn't that good? It's a good thing. It's a good thing you got someone who knows what he's talking about. All right, great. Our next now bridge to the free choice is inner work. Now this is very important. Why? Because spirituality, truth be told, is the internality of a person, right? Internality. It's all about our internality. Therefore, there is nothing to get mad about in the outside world. That makes sense, doesn't it? Remember our lesson from the perception of reality. Everything that is perceived via my 5 senses create the illusion that I am living in this world. For example, it is just an illusion that Anthony here is here. Okay, however, he's not there. Okay, let's get serious. He's there in my senses. However, all of the reality that I see seemingly on the outside is projected to the back of my head, and it feels like I'm living this world. However, Kabbalists say we're only living everything inside our head. So if everything is lived inside of me, I have to bring everything that's on the outside to a reconciliation, which is an understanding from within inside. Okay, does that make sense? And that work is called the work in the 3 lines. However, we're not in spirituality yet. We're still in this world, unfortunately. So in order for us to build a spiritual conception, how do I need to do this inner work so I can find some kind of direction? Because inner work is actually the work that directs me properly. It's like a compass. If I know how to use that compass, I can find the right direction all the time. So in order for me to start working internally, I need a compass to direct me correctly to the Creator. Right? Okay. Let's do that. So here we have the Creator. And here we have the dot in the heart. All right? Remember, the only thing that's getting spiritual is the dot in the heart, which is our inclination to the Creator. Nothing else. Forget all your desires that exist in you. They exist in you, and that's great. You don't have to, you don't have to kill them. You don't have to get rid of your desires. You can just live with your desires as usual. But in order to get spiritual, we want to direct ourselves to the Creator. And start getting sensations that are related to my dot in the heart, because the whole idea of the dot in the heart is to develop that part of me. So if I want to develop the dot in the heart, I need something that will influence that specific point so that I can get some spiritual sensations or impressions in order to then direct them towards my goal. And that's the goal here. Oops, what's that? All right, so this, hello. Okay, This is the goal, the creator, which is bestowal, or you can call it love. Okay, there you go. So how am I going to do that? Well, that depends on free choice, doesn't it? So if I choose for myself, because I don't see the creator at the moment, so there's nothing to talk about. I can't really describe to myself, oh, there is God, just like in religions or whatever, when in fact I don't see him, I don't feel him, and I don't know anything about him. I mean, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is this. Somebody told me that there is God, but I don't see him, hear him, or feel him. So I believe what somebody told me. Well, that's not really believing in God, is it? That's believing in what somebody told me. So we end up believing other people's words and take that as truth rather than taking what we see, hear, and feel as truth. So the Kabbalists are saying, well, that can't be right. How am I supposed to get anything done if I just believe what people tell me? It's just not right. And they're right. That's just not right. So how am I going to build a sensation towards the Creator? So they're very pragmatic. So once they came up with this feeling that there's a dot in the heart who wants to discover the Creator, they thought about, how do I influence this dot in the heart so I can develop this sixth sense to feel and to understand and to create a connection and a relationship with the Creator? Well, they came up with a solution, and they called that solution the environment. But the environment can only happen if, guess what? This is the environment. The environment is only a worthwhile environment if there are other dots in the heart. Because we want to influence our soul, well, our potential soul. Because the dot in the heart is not a soul, it is a potential if we make out of it a soul. So the Kabbalists are saying, listen, if you have the right books, let's just make it right. If you have the right books and you have the right teacher and you have a group of friends with a dot in the heart as well, then from there you can begin to study the spiritual worlds from those who already attained it, right? So the books have to be authentic Kabbalah books, right? You guys already know about that. I don't need to go over it, but let's just write it down. So that's Bala Sulam, Rabash, and all the writings we have from them, right? So we have Tas, Zohar, we've got articles from both of them, etc. Okay? So once we start to learn those books, because they're talking about the attributes of the Creator, because all Kabbalist books talk about just one thing, the Creator and the relationship between us and the Creator. I mean, there's nothing else to talk about, right? They're not going to give me some story about some guy walking in the desert. I mean, why would they? They're not history teachers. They want to teach us how to build this relationship with the Creator. So all the books, all the articles, everything they wrote about is just talking about one thing: how these dots in the heart can connect with each other so that they can feel the Creator. Why is that important? Well, how do we feel life? Okay, I'm sure all of you have someone in your lives that you love. How is that love felt? It's felt between the connection, right? It's felt in the connection between you. If I love someone in my mind and I never, they're not there, it's just not going to happen, is it? I'm not going to get any sensations from that. So love can only be felt if there are two people, and it's that connection between two people. Let me just draw it here. Okay, so let's say this is A and this is B person, and they have love between them. That love is felt here in between. It's not felt inside anyone. Okay, get this. This is really interesting, right? Love can only be felt between people. It can never be felt just in me. Because if the other person doesn't exist, there's nothing to talk about. I can't have that sensation. So just like that, spirituality can only be felt in the connection between the dots in the heart. But then you're going to say, well, how does that relate to the Creator? Right? You're right. How's that going to relate to the Creator? So spirituality are these green lines. They're not in me, they're not in you, they're not in anyone, but when we connect properly, they are felt between us. And from the example I just gave you, that shouldn't shock you at all. Now you might ask, well, how's that going to get us to the Creator? Well, that's the $1 million question, which is a very straightforward answer. Remember, the dot in the heart is the piece from the Creator He gave us from Himself. The dot in the heart cannot belong to us. It can't be from ourselves, because we're a desire to receive for ourselves, when the Creator is in fact a desire to bestow for the sake of others. But in order to bring us to bestowal, the Creator had to do this little trick. He needed to plant inside of us this little Trojan horse, so that this little Trojan horse inside of us can begin to become like Him, or want to become like Him. And because that part, that Trojan horse, is from the Creator Himself, when those parts from the Creator Himself start to connect, they make a big part of the Creator in their sensations. And thus, as we connect the dots in the heart, what we begin to feel is spirituality inside our connection. And that sensation of spirituality is in fact the Creator Himself. Because remember, the Creator is not Father Christmas or some other guy up in the clouds. He is an attribute of bestowal and love. So the connection, the correct connection that we build between us by the study, by the work, brings us to feel the Creator. So how's this inner work going to happen? Well, this can only happen if I stick my head inside an environment, and the environment influences my dot in the heart. Then what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to get all kinds of sensations, aren't I? If bestowal, I'm going to start to describe to myself, if bestowal is the Creator, and in order to bestow and get pleasure from bestowal, I need to love others. I need to start doing action inside the group for me to get such sensations that will bring me to freedom of choice. Okay, so write that down. I need to do actions inside the group that will bring me to a dilemma where I'll have to decide whether or not to choose spirituality or not, leading me to make a free choice. If I don't have free choice, I will never grow. So for us to grow spiritually as well, we need to be in that work, and the work should reflect to me, it should bring me feedback about, do I want to do this or do I not want to do this? If I want to do this, how should I do it? If I don't want to do this, how should I do this? Okay, that's also a question. If I don't want to do this, how am I going to carry on doing this? It's like you wake up in the morning and you don't want to go to work, but you get up in the morning and you do go to work, don't you? So spirituality is going to bring us to dilemmas where I don't want to get spiritual. I will not want to get spiritual. Trust me, the more you go forward, you won't want to get spiritual. However, what did I say a minute ago? A while ago, at least. It's not about whether I feel good or bad. It's about attaining what I want to attain. This is the same thing that works in our world. Imagine this entrepreneur, right? Imagine someone really famous. Let's take Elon Musk, okay? Because I read an article about him the other day. Now, Elon Musk sold this company for $169 million. Most of us would probably think, oh, that's great for retirement. I don't have to do anything else for the rest of my life now, right? But no. He decided to go and do a rocket and a car and solar panels so we can get clean energy. And he spent all his money on that. And in fact, got into debt. Okay? So what does that tell you? He's scared. He's thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? He's probably thinking along the way, I have made the worst mistake of my life. Why couldn't I have just settled down somewhere in the Caribbean? Okay? But with all the dilemmas that he's probably going through, with all the difficulties, right? He's probably overcoming them as well. Otherwise, he can't go forward. So, although he feels really, under pressure, squeezed, how we're going to do this, we don't have enough money to do these, all the rockets as well. Every time you have a rocket test and it fails, it's like back to the drawing board and hundreds of millions of dollars are gone, right? So imagine that. So he's constantly failing and failing and failing until he got it right on the fourth test. And if he hadn't, I was like, God knows what was going to happen, all right? So same in spirituality. So imagine a really determined person who really wants to attain something, and he goes beyond his fears. He goes beyond his sensation of good and bad. And he really wants to get it done. And he can get it done, and he did. So it's only logical that we can also do that in spirituality. Because this world is a reflection of spirituality. Everything that happens in this world is a sign that we can do in spirituality as well. In our spiritual work, everything is possible. So regardless of all the states that we're going to go through throughout our study in Kabbalah, the freedom of choice is going to be whether this is important enough for me or not. And how important will I make this for me so that I can attain what I want to attain. All of the sensations you'll go through, the dilemmas, the times when you want to just turn around and run away, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful, are going to be your food for inner work. You can only get that food if you do the work inside that environment, because that environment becomes like a laboratory, becomes a little place where you can experiment with yourself. And the reason we do it in an environment is because it's a controlled space. You won't go nuts. Listen, because sometimes people study spirituality and then you meet them after they studied something and you think, oh my God, she's lost it. Okay, so you don't want to lose it. What you want to do is a controlled environment where you can really work, where you can really begin to understand yourself, understand your nature, understand the general laws of nature, and how those conflicts erupt between two natures, and how you can reconcile them in a controlled sensing, in a senseful way, in an intelligent way. So you're not always left out there with a bunch of emotions and you don't know what to do with them. All right? So the study of Kabbalah should bring us to those sensations in which we can begin to reconcile all the sensations that we go through. We can link them to the goal. We can begin to relate to them. And the Kabbalists have done a great job of writing about all the states that we're going to go through. I mean, imagine that. We're going to study things that we're going to go through, and they've already been through that. Isn't that wonderful? It's as easy as ABC, I reckon. Right then, any questions about inner work? That's all in a nutshell, inner work. But, I mean, what else can I say? Are there any questions?
We have a ton of questions. I'm very, very happy that you all wrote in so many questions today. Enoch has written from Tanzania, and he says, why is B'nai Baruch as a group concerned about giving this Kabbalah knowledge to the world?
That's a very good question. Well, for one thing, if you don't know the meaning of your life, what's going to happen to you? You're just lost in life. Imagine a person who has no goal in life. What do? They just wander in life. Okay? It's like my mum's chickens in the backyard. They're just wandering all day. The purpose of life is to become like the Creator. And that purpose has to be met. We have to get there. It's no choice. Just like there's no choice when we're born. Nobody's asking us. I mean, which one of us would want to be born in this place? I mean, right?
Not me.
Not any of us. I mean, if you look from space somewhere, look at our lives here. It's just like, if somebody asked some guy on Mars, would you like to go and live there like them? He'd probably think, are you kidding? You're nuts. Okay? So same with our lives. You can't get any fulfillment. There's nothing to run after. And you're just like, we're just living for the sake of living it out. So that is very important for people to know and understand. If they have a desire, though, only if they have a desire, which is the dot in the heart, they should come and know what they're living for. If not, they're welcome to live just as they do on a daily basis. Because in spirituality, there is no pressure. Okay, this is why we don't go out to people. We just make it available in books, on the internet, just like here. So if anybody wants to come and learn, they can come and learn. But we don't go out there onto the streets and say, hey, why don't you study Kabbalah? Because, I mean, come on. Who wants to? Only if you got a strong dot in the heart who's really, really wondering about the meaning of life, and and it doesn't agree living like this, then we have something to talk about with that kind of person. And those kind of people, yeah, we need to find them. We need to bring them closer, because otherwise they get into depression. If you look at the world today, they're mostly on depression, alcohol, drug abuse, Prozac. I mean, that's like one of these, like, sells more than Viagra nowadays. Why? Because people are depressed. There you go. People should know why they're living.
Now, Carmen from Romania is asking, if a person has not developed his point in the heart, what determines the development in various reincarnations?
That's the system. Okay, the whole of reality is a system. And we don't really know how it all functions unless we see the whole picture. So the whole of reality, let's say, is just one huge thing. And we are probably living, let's say, I don't know how to even draw it, it's so small. Let's say we're just in this line here, this little bit here. Okay, this is our reality, let's say, compared to the whole of reality. We don't know the rest of the system. We don't know how all of this is working. So this one creation, and us inside that creation as parts of that creation, is going through reincarnation. It's evolving. So every time we're going through reincarnation, it's not like me dying and then coming back as me again. It's the whole system going through this change. This is why populations go up and down. It doesn't matter. Just like in the cells of the body, a lot of cells die and a lot of new ones are born. But the body is the same body. So the creation is the same creation. So the creation is the same creation, but the whole system is evolving, and that's what's called reincarnation. Yes.
Okay, so Varga from Romania is asking, how can we make a connection with God, and how can we know that the connection has been made?
Well, that's the whole study, mate. So you're going to have to, in order to do that, something we have to build. You know, when a little, I don't know, let's say a little fetus is inside his or her mother's womb. He's got no connection with the mother, he's got no connection with this world, nothing. He's growing in there. So until he is born and starts to grow up in this world, then he begins to understand there are people around, there's this world, and so on. So we have to go through that process, that's the whole study. Yeah.
Now, Enoch from Tanzania is asking, Was it necessary for God to create us if he created us only for pleasure?
Was it necessary? The necessity to create creation comes from the nature of the Creator. Since we don't know the Creator at the moment, what we can only say about him would be philosophy. But imagine this. Imagine that your character and nature is such that it's only bestowing and giving. And that nature in you exists because you are perfection. And from that perfection, what happens is outwardly you want to share, you want to give. So the Creator's purpose in creating creation, the Creator's purpose in creating creation in order to bestow to it, which means actually to make the creatures like us, creation, just like him, to bring us to perfection, is just incomprehensible until we reach his level, because we're not at that level. Even when we ask that question, well, was it necessary for God to create us? It's just like we have no clue about what the Creator is. How can we even ask the question? But just think for a moment. It's a good question. It's a valid question. But a question like that can only have an answer if I'm in perfection, if I have everything, if I am like the Creator myself. Imagine yourself at that state, and then you'll see that that is actually doing good. Yeah. Okay, before we go on to any more questions, we've got 12 minutes. I've got to say a few more things about the inner work. Now, because we're studying in an environment, let's say this is our environment, right? And we want to get to the Creator. Okay, remember, it's the attribute of love and bestowal. And we are here at the bottom of the food chain. On the way to the Creator, I am going to go through good sensations, which are great, and I'm going to go through some really lousy ones, okay, which are also great, because there is no bad in spirituality. I mean, how can I say chili sauce is bad on my kebabs? I can't, because it makes it taste even better, but it's chili. So if you eat chili on its own, it's really bad. But you mix it up with your kebabs, then it just tastes great. Okay? So is chili bad or good? It's great. Okay? But for some, it might taste really bad. So spirituality is kind of like that. So we have to kind of give it a good taste, regardless of the taste might be a little bitter. And that's called ups and downs in spirituality. So ups and downs in spirituality means, very simply this: until I come to a certain understanding, let's call this the level of understanding. Until I come to a certain understanding, a certain level, I'm going to go through ups and downs in my development. Ups and downs. Now, because we are in our desire to receive, the way we perceive these ups and downs is in two ways. I'm either happy, and that'll be an up mode. I'll feel motivated. I want to study. I want to get this done. I want to attain the Creator. And if I'm in that mood, I'm like having an up day in spirituality. Okay, but remember, it's towards the goal. You have to measure it always towards the goal. So me wanting to attain, being energized, having a good mood to attain the Creator is an up mood, okay, where I'm happy, feeling good. And in my desire to receive, if I'm having a bad day with respect to spirituality, I'm not going to be very happy, am I? I'm not going to be a happy chappy. Now, until we come to a certain level of understanding, this is a, let's say, understanding. Oh, whoops. If I can just write. Understanding. I'm not even talking about spirituality, right? I'm just talking about a certain level of understanding that this is how the road is. Okay, the road has bumps. It's got ups and downs. Just like our life as well. Our life is not smooth. So it's only fair to expect that our spiritual life isn't going to be smooth either, right? I mean, it's logical. So we're going to have ups and downs. But those ups and downs are necessary. Those feelings of good and bad are necessary because through that necessity, I can have free choice. If I don't have those splits, I can't have free choice. Free choice actually is when I'm feeling bad on my spiritual path. This is actually the sensation of feeling bad in my spiritual development is more helpful. This is, in other words, great, is more helpful in advancing than my good state, which is actually a bad thing. Why? Why do you think is that? Because if I feel good, I won't want to move, will I? If I feel good lying down on the sofa with a can of beer and some nuts or chips, watching the football, if I feel great, I don't want to move. And if all of a sudden my wife is asking for something, it just drives me nuts. But if I feel there's this tension, if I feel that there's something pushing me, making me feel bad, then I'll want to get out of that bad. Well, what is the bad that we really want to get out of? The bad that we really want to get out of is this loop that we're in this way of life that we're in, corporeality, just chasing our own tail. We want to get out of this loop. So then I can begin to think above my sensations. I can say to myself, wait a minute, even though I feel bad, it doesn't matter because I want to get to my goal. Just like a determined person wants to attain something in this life. Just like Edison with his light bulbs. He had to fail 1,000 times until he invented the light bulb. Same with us. It's that determination that gives me free choice. So regardless of what I feel bad. But even though I feel bad, I use my freedom of choice to get spiritual. That's where free choice comes in. Because our nature is a desire to receive pleasure, every time we feel bad, we want to run away from things. But you know, where are you going to run to in life? I mean, if you got a place to run to, great. I mean, in fact, you know what? Let me know where you're running to as well.
I'm coming too.
Yes. All right. I just need you to understand that it's very important to understand. Just like we carry on in our corporeal lives, regardless the ups and downs, spirituality, we're also going to get ups and downs. We need to connect them to the goal, and we need to use them as a leverage to go even higher. You can't get to the good without the bad. If our lives in this world was always fun, we'd never feel the fun because we don't have anything to compare it to. So in spirituality as well, if you want to know how you're advancing, like one of our friends said, how am I going to know? Well, you can only know if you first attain the opposite. If the Creator is all good and bestowal, then what am I supposed to attain? I'm supposed to attain the opposite. I'm going to reveal all the bad stuff so that I can flip them into good stuff. So if I was to just, if somebody gave me a bowl of chili sauce and I was to drink that, obviously I'm not going to get any pleasure. I'm just going to burn. But if somebody gave me a chili sauce and then he gave me kebabs in the pita bread, I think, oh, it's just great. Put a bit of chili and you got your kebabs, and together it's lovely. And this is how it is in spirituality as well. You make the bitter sweeter with your progress and your understanding about spirituality at a deeper level every time. There you go. We've got 2 minutes left, or 3 actually. So now you can ask questions. There we go.
Varga is asked, where is the mind, and with what does it announce me to develop spiritually?
Where is the mind is the first question. I'll answer that. That's a really good question. For me to first attain the mind, I need to feel something, because we're sensual creatures. First, I need to get into the environment, start studying. Then from the studying, I'm going to get a feeling, which is going to be a feedback. Now I have to use my mind according to the books that we're learning from and flip that sensation to something useful, well, to make it something useful towards the goal I want to attain. What's the second part of the question? With what it announced me to develop spiritual. I don't understand that. Can you just rephrase that? With what it announced me to develop spirituality. I don't. Okay. Just ask again that second part of your question, because I don't understand that word announce in there. Okay. What's Dora asking?
Dora's asking, what is the purpose of our decay phase, then death?
The purpose of our decay is that what happens is the information never dies, okay? The impressions never die, but the desire to receive, that's the whole idea, the desire to receive completely dissolves. And that's what it is. Now, it's a good thing that there is death. Death is actually an illusion, right? Because if our life is an illusion in our head, death is also an illusion. Spirituality is infinity. So dying here is actually a sign for us to see that this world has got nothing in it. It's just a waste of, well, it's not a waste of time. It's just like not worth it, because what are we living for here? It's a limited period of time. We don't know when we're going to die, and we can't get any pleasure out of it. So all the criteria in front of my eyes just give me a logical answer. Say, well, we have to attain something higher. If we didn't die, and if we had one life until we attained spirituality, we'd never make it. Why? Because the suffering is so much. We'd be killing ourselves along the way all the time. We'd just be jumping off the bridge all the time. People now want to live even longer and longer and longer. And I'm thinking, why would you? Imagine us living in this state for 1,000 years. It's like, it's horrific. It's crazy. We'd just kill ourselves. We'd never want to live that long. Yes, what else?
Yeah, Mike from South Africa, he wrote this in a little bit ago. He says, it was interesting what you said. We don't have a soul. We only have a potential soul. Can you say more about this?
We certainly can. If we had a soul already, okay, then there would not be any work for us to do. The Creator created everything from nothing, from scratch, and He wants us to be just like Him. So He's probably thinking, well, how are they going to be just like me? Oh, wait a minute, I created reality from scratch. Why don't they create spiritual reality from scratch? That way, they'll attain everything that I did, and they can be just like me. That's what it means to build a soul, to be just like the Creator. That's why it's a potential, because man has to build it himself.
And Stephen from the UK just wrote in, is the sixth sense of feeling it in the heart not related to corporeality?
It's definitely not related to corporeality, but it's not just the heart as well. It's the heart with an understanding, let's say. Okay, because we can't just have a sensation without understanding, just like we can't in this world either. So it's a feeling with an understanding.
Another question says, interesting. It didn't have an author, but it says, how you left your corporeal desires without killing it?
We can't kill them. Why? Well, for one thing, you have to eat tomorrow, right? So how are we going to kill it? In order for us to live, we need those desires. Life forces us to live, because you need food, you need companionship, you need sex, you need money. You need money just to live. Okay? You need honor in society. You can't have people like treating you with disrespect forever. You just cancel yourself. And you need to know things. Knowledge is important, even just to stay alive in this world. So all those desires we actually need to make this reality a stepping stone for a spiritual one. So we don't want to kill them. We don't want to disregard them. We don't want to, just disrespect those desires. We want to use them. We want to use them as a jumping board to attain spirituality. How's that? How many people are we today?
It's kind of been jumping. I think there's some technical issues in some places. I see a total of 12 here right now. There was up to 16 to 18 earlier, and then it kind of dropped. It's been fluctuating because of some. Felix wrote in that he's having technical difficulties. I had a few more technical issues.
All right, well, let's hope you guys fix that all up for next week. We're out of time, unfortunately. So we will love and leave you until next Tuesday evening. Take care of yourselves. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.